they were not all the same. When a gladiator stepped into the arena, he did so not just as a man, but as a symbol. Each fighter had a distinct role, a carefully chosen weapon, and armor designed to both protect and perform. Gladiators were categorized, styled, and trained into unique combat identities, each one meant to captivate the Roman crowd in its own way. These weren't just battles, they were matchups, a game of contrasts, a deadly dance between predator and prey. One of the most iconic pairings was that of the Retiarius and the Secutor. The Retiarius fought nearly bare, his body exposed, armed with only a net, a trident, and a dagger. He was quick, agile, and theatrical. His opponent, the Secutor, was the opposite. Armored, methodical, and relentless. With a smooth helmet to deflect the net and a large shield in hand, the Secutor was built for close combat. Their clash told a story: light versus heavy, freedom versus control, chaos versus discipline. Another common type was the Dimachiri. They wore little armor, relying on speed and offense. Others, like the Hoplomachus, took inspiration from Greek warriors. He wore heavy armor, carried a spear and a small shield, and moved like a soldier of old. Every style was carefully chosen, not just for tactical variety, but to echo distant cultures and stories Rome wished to remember or conquer. These roles weren't assigned at random. A fighter's body, speed, and temperament often determined his path. The schools trained them accordingly. A tall, quick man might become a Retiarius, while a stocky, powerful man might be molded into a Secutor. The doctors, those who trained them, knew how to craft both warriors and spectacles. But there was more than skill on display. There was meaning. To the Roman audience, each pairing carried symbolism. The Retiarius, unarmored and wild, was seen as effeminate by some, even weak. But when he won, he turned the narrative on its head. He became proof that speed and cleverness could overcome brute force. The Secutor, with his smooth helmet and imposing presence, was a favorite of the crowd, yet he was often cast as the villain. His victories were expected. His losses were dramatic. Weapons and armor weren't just practical, they were theatrical. The crests on helmets, the style of greaves, the type of shield, each detail was part of the show. Even the way a gladiator moved was shaped by his gear. A man with a large shield would keep his stance low and guarded. A man with two blades moved like lightning, never still for long. These were not random duels. They were choreographed contrasts designed to spark excitement and awe. Sometimes men fought outside their usual roles. In special matches, or to surprise the audience, a Mamillo might face another Mamillo, or a Retiarius might take on a Thracian. These were rare, often controversial, and always memorable. The crowd loved the familiar patterns, but they lived for the unexpected. Behind the armor, however, they were still men. Men who practiced these tactics every day, perfecting their footwork, sharpening their reflexes, learning how to win, or how to fall with grace. Their identities were shaped by the weapons they held, but also by how they chose to use them. Some favored aggression, others defense. Some became legends not for how many fights they won, but for how well they told the story. Not every gladiator type was popular. Some were seen as dull, others as dishonorable. A few styles disappeared over time, replaced by newer, more exciting forms. But every one of them played a role in the grand performance of Roman bloodsport. They were puzzle pieces in a violent theatre, chosen for contrast, story, and crowd reaction. The crowd didn't always know the names of the men beneath the helmets, but they knew the style, they knew the matchup, and they knew what they wanted to see. They came for excitement, for pattern, for surprise. They came to see strength tested and weakness punished. And so the fighters stood side by side in the waiting pens, listening to the roar of the crowd through stone walls. One with a trident, one with a sword, one weighed down by armor, one nearly naked. They had trained for this moment, not just to survive, but to perform. When the gates opened, they stepped into the light not just as men, but as icons, as characters in a deadly play. The crowd didn't see them as prisoners, or slaves, or volunteers. They saw warriors, defined by steel and style, gladiators, fighters of Rome, symbols of its power and its appetite for spectacle. Don't forget to subscribe for more.